once again, everyone, to this Doctor Who review show from Geek Syndicate. This is the episode that we're recording, number 9, for episode 10 of the 2020 series of Doctor Who, The Timeless Children, which is the finale. I am joined, as ever, by Mr. Barry Nugent.
By me.
I've kind of given up on giving you like the big billing now, because you just usually just shoot me down and make me look like an idiot. So you're just Barry Nugent now.
Okay, fair enough. That's who I've always been, unlike some people. Clang! Because of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. With you.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were talking about me being
no
some kind of like secret Time Lord or something. I don't know.
No. God, we haven't even done the spoilers bit yet.
Sorry. Yeah, so spoilers. There will be spoilers because we're doing a review and we're going to get into some stuff, I would imagine. I can probably see this episode going on a little bit longer than we normally try as well. But
how long? Yeah, because normally we do half an hour, don't we?
Yeah, it's usually 35 minutes-ish.
Yeah, I feel this may go over. We'll see how we go.
Yeah. So without further ado, I will hit you with some blurb and then we can get into it. In the epic and emotional series finale, the Cybermen are on the march. As the last remaining humans are ruthlessly hunted down, Graham, Ryan and Yaz face a terrifying fight to survive. Civilizations fall. Others rise anew. Lies are exposed, truths are revealed, battles are fought. And for the Doctor, trapped and alone, nothing will ever be the same again. Kind of feel that doesn't really blurbify the episode properly. If I'm honest.
Fair enough.
But there we go. Anyway.
Yes.
Let's not talk about blurbs.
No.
Let's get into it. I'll tell you what. Should we give some sort of overall thoughts on the episode as a whole, and then get into what I guess will become a bit of
the biggie,
and the biggies, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
So overall, I really enjoyed the episode. However, a lot of the things I thought would happen, the dangers I thought might happen, actually came to pass. Mm-hmm. And I was still left feeling that this should have been split into 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I felt that, and I'm kind of getting some of the, it's not negative, it's criticism, do you know what I mean? It's not negative. Yeah. I kind of felt that one of my biggest fears were that a lot of the plot points they'd set up were going to be rushed through for the sake of the big, everything's going to change part of the story.
Mm.
And that is what I feel is kind of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I think what happened to, is it Ashad?
Yes.
Criminal.
Yeah. That's one of the, I've got that in bold in my notes. It's like, just what a waste.
What a waste. You developed I know everyone, there's people who love the Cybermen. I'm kind of ambivalent to Cybermen. I like them back in the day, but I was, every time they kind of roll them out, I'm a bit like the Daleks now. I'm a bit like, oh, can we get some new? And I felt what they were able to do with Ashad was actually still roll out the Cybermen, but give me a new way of looking at them.
Yeah.
And give me a new villain that was really interesting. That actually you could have rolled him out again and again like the Master if you'd played it right. And I just felt he went from grand, almost like Khan from Star Trek level villain with the, with some of the big monologues he was doing, to literally henchman and then disposable henchman within like a split second.
Mm.
And a lot of the sort of stuff around, and I got this, the way they'd brought him up, you got this real sense that he had a much bigger story, a much bigger part to play in the story that I thought was going to get all revealed, and that just didn't happen, which sometimes wouldn't necessarily bother me, because you don't know where the story's going to go and stuff. But I just felt it almost felt like we need to get onto like our big reveal, so we need to sort of sideline the Cybermen as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you've said. I loved the episode. When I was watching it, I came away from it with a lot of thoughts, as clearly the entire internet did.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you said last week, this is clearly going to be a divisive episode, and that's. It was a safe bet but it's clearly borne out. I really enjoyed it while I was watching it. It's one of those ones though where the more I think about it afterwards, the more things kind of like fall apart a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just purely, as you say, because of that sense of kind of like rushing to get things done.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved. I said it last week, but I think I edited most of it out. I got rid of 5 minutes of me saying how amazing Cybermen are last episode. It was literally 5 minutes of the episode I cut was just me rambling about Cybermen because I love them and I love these new designs.
Yeah.
Not the cyber clowns. The cyber clowns can f off. Sorry, the cyber masters, but cyber clowns they reminded me of.
We'll get to those.
We'll get to that. But like the new design, the new design of the Cyber Warriors, I thought were great. I thought this seemed like a feasible threat. This episode as well, and like just like the scenes of them kind of like just marching and going to war and stuff, and taking out gun turrets and stuff. I loved. So I loved all the Cybermen stuff. Not so much the once they'd gone to Gallifrey and everything that happened there, for various reasons, including the fact that, as you say, just criminal misuse of a shard and just. I didn't even. It's not like I wanted to know more about his origins, but no. I wanted him more there as an antagonist.
Yes,
and a recurring antagonist, like you were saying last week. He's a bit of that kind of Davros for the Cybermen sort of thing. And one of the points that I'll probably be referring to Carl or Dr. Carl quite a lot this episode because I've had a bit of a chat with him and he's raised some good points on Twitter, some of which I'll address, some of which I'll probably forget about and then wish I'd talked about afterwards. But one of them was. He was saying about the plan, the Siberians' plan to like turn the Cybermen into pure automatons was completely against, what Cybermen are about, and it is, they're about being organic but being ruled by logic. It's about survival.
And constantly improving themselves. Very Borg-like kind of ideology.
Yeah. And he was saying it reminded him, there's an episode in Next Generation where Laura and the Borg have that same thing where they just want to go fully automated. And again, it seems out of character for them and it seems out of character for the Cybermen. Mm-hmm. And my kind of like sort of comeback to that I said to him was, in my head, it was kind of like a shard had sort of infected the Cyberium a bit. And his hatred of himself and his organic self had sort of like necessitated that being his plan and that being the plan to go down.
Yeah.
So I was kind of okay with it as a plan for that reason. But then the fact, as I say, that he just got, taken out like a bitch, basically. It was like, yeah, that's not on. And he got turned into basically a little War Games miniature that didn't even look right him. And then strapped to a bomb. Yeah, criminal. But as I say, I mean, I kind of quite liked the episode as a whole. It kept me engaged. It was just, as you say, things when you think about them don't quite sit right, and there was a lot of things were rushed. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it.
Two things I really want to say from performance-wise. Other than there was a couple of scenes where he went a little bit too wacky crazy. I thought the guy playing the Master, I thought he was awesome in it.
Yes. Do you know what I didn't notice? He's the guy from Iron Fist as well.
Yes, he's the baddie. Nice.
Yeah, I didn't even click until earlier this week.
Yeah. I thought he knocked it out of the park. I thought from when it started, when they landed on Gallifrey, and he was kind of like, "Look upon my works in despair." I was like, "Yep, yep, more of that, all of that, less comedy, villainy." All of that. But even some of the one-liners, he dropped to one line where he was like, "I rode a red carpet out." He goes, "Yeah, and the red is obviously the blood of our dead people." I was like, "Oh, burn, Joey."
Yeah, he did knock it out of the park, as you say, and it was like when he's talking to the Doctor about why he burnt Gallifrey and the anger that he got, and it's like because of the revelations, you felt it,
His reasoning was sound. Whether you agree with the massive reveal, the reasoning I got, I got the reasoning.
Yeah.
And his anger and whatever. Yeah, I got that. I tried to ignore the practicalities of like, how did you wipe out Gallifrey and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's
what I would have liked a little bit of, because they are the Time Lords. They're not exactly
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
a shrinking violets is, I know he's the master and blah blah blah, but it is still Gallifrey, home of the Time Lords, of which he is one.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, in the past, they've managed to slap him down to size on multiple occasions.
Yeah, because even when you sort of, even if you compare him to say Anakin Skywalker, and in the scenes in Revenge of the Sith when he goes back and he's taken out Jedi's left, right, and center. Yeah, but he's got the backup of stormtroopers left, right, and center. Do you know what I mean?
He's got an army behind him.
He's got an army behind him, rather than one guy. So I would have liked a little bit of a, but I was willing to let it go, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? I was willing to let it go. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it's kind of a testament to how much I enjoyed the thing as a whole, that there were a lot of things like that I was willing to sort of let go at the time I was watching it.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
Because there are a lot of things. It's like the whole, his plan then of making, cyber Time Lords and with the corpses. A, that wouldn't work because Cybermen aren't made from corpses; they're made from living people. And B, if they were all dead, how could they regenerate? And what made them regenerate indefinitely? But I just went with it when I was watching it. I got caught up in the story.
Yeah, exactly.
It's only afterwards I was thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, and see, that's a lot of work for one dude.
Yeah.
Just from a logistical, physical point of view, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Because you think about it, he's had to draw up the designs for that armor, for those cyber suits.
Get them the cloaks, get them fitted on. You know.
Do that intricate carving.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to say was there was a scene in there that I really liked, even though I'm not sure about the fact they put a little bit of comedy at the end of it, because I thought the scene itself was actually a really powerful scene, and it was the scene between Graham and Yaz.
Yes.
Where Graham was just going, you're just the most impressive person I've met, and the Doctor's got a time machine and such good. You got none of that, but you'll never beat it. And I thought he just nailed it.
Yeah.
He nailed it. And then they kind of ended it with a bit of comedy, which still, the comedy kind of worked because of the way he sold it, but I kind of felt that he sort of slightly undercut what I actually thought was quite an emotional scene.
Yeah. Like you say, he kind of came up with this brilliant thing, and then she said, you're not too bad yourself. And then it was when he came back with the, is that all I get? Sort of thing. That was the bit that, for me, I didn't mind her response, because that was kind of like, in keeping. It was just the over-the-top response he then came out with. But then I quite liked her kind of like, I'm from Yorkshire, that's practically a love letter.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was, as I said, it didn't detract that much from the scene itself, but I just, right up until when she went, you're not too bad yourself, you could have ended it there and I would have been like, yep.
Yeah.
I like that. It was solid. But you're right. When he then did that bit, I was a bit, let it go. And then when she dropped there, well, that's practically a love letter. I thought, actually, that was okay.
Yeah.
And my last thing before we get to the big thing, someone brought this up. It's a guy who basically, he live tweets Doctor Who, and I was trying to find his stream to sort of mention some of the things that he said, and I couldn't find it. But one of the things that he said, which I kind of agree with, now that I'm kind of sitting back and I start to do the rewatch, that effectively your protagonist basically spent most of the episode not doing anything, because obviously she was trapped in Woolsfield, but didn't do anything really. She was just acted. It was basically like she was sitting in a chair and someone's reading her story.
Yeah, that is a fair point. I don't think it's necessarily a negative, because it sort of worked. But I think part of this comes back to what you said earlier, though, that if this had been 2 parts, you could have had the Doctor actually doing stuff. Yes.
Yeah. You could have ended this part with basically the big reveal and the big da-da-da, and then, you can have it, a lot more of it sort of kicking off. Because I actually thought there was going to be a lot more kicking off, and I actually was glad to see they brought Ruthless Doctor back. But it wasn't how I thought she was going to be used, and I was a little bit disappointed. Even at the time when I watched it, I was a little bit disappointed, because I thought rather than her showing up to give her a pep talk, I thought we would have got to see a bit more, like basically she was turning up and it was going to be the two of them having to sort of team up, like a classic sort of Doctor Who kind of team, And
the other thing as well is it's not like she was actually there, because that was all obviously in the Doctor's head, so it's almost like the Doctor projecting her own thoughts.
She even
said why that face kind of thing, like and that kind of, Yeah, I felt that was again a waste.
Again, it wasn't that it was bad. I just think that again, it just showed me that we could have done with another episode.
Yeah.
I know this is going to go longer, but I felt that the whole, I don't know how many minutes of screen time was given over to the whole island flashback, whatever you want to call it, in the previous episode. But personally, I thought there was a lot of time given over that could have actually been given over to other plot stuff.
Yeah.
Given what we discovered it actually was, it didn't really give us anything.
No. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think because we kind of, we'd said it was obviously to do with the timeless child. That was a timeless child. It was just like who it was that came out. That was obviously the reveal. But yeah, there was a lot of time last episode for essentially nothing.
Yeah. Because I feel when the master sort of explains, there's this, we'll get onto it, but when the master sort of explains effectively what it is, that was kind of all you really needed.
Yeah.
And I feel like that whole bit is set up for next season where, she's going to decipher it or whatever at some stage. But I don't know. I just think that when you're trying to set up a two-part and you've got that much plot to get through, I almost feel that bit of it was a bit of an indulgence.
Yeah, I think it's purely that, and I think it was kind of one of those things of
to throw us off the scent.
Just throw people off the scent, and it was just there almost for the sake of having that kind of what was all that about mystery at the end of the last episode, and it wasn't necessary at all for anything really, because it's like the master in this episode, he throws in a line about and you're getting glitches to Ireland or whatever, and that's what it's all about, and it's no, she wasn't.
Yeah, it was. The
flashbacks were purely for the audience. That wasn't the Doctor having flashbacks.
See, because that's what I've read. I've read that people are saying it was her that was having the flashback. She was seeing it, and I'm like, but if that was the case, that was badly communicated, because I didn't see that at all.
No, I didn't see that at all. Other than in this thing, it's like maybe that's why you're getting them as like a reward or something. And it's like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, one other thing I did want to say quickly is it wrong that I really wanted Ryan to be shot in the back while he was doing his little victory dance thing?
Oh, that's the other thing. That was the other thing I wanted to say. So I'm not advocating you killing off companions. I'm not saying, and I don't always believe that you need to have death in the show to make that show more, to raise the emotional stakes in the show. I think there's many other ways you can do it. But for me, it felt like a cop out when the old dude turned up in the chamber.
I mean, that was obviously going to happen, though.
No, it wasn't obvious to me. To me, it wasn't. When I say it wasn't obvious, it was obvious that someone was going to rock up. What wasn't obvious was that who it was going to be.
Right.
And to me, if it had been Yaz, that would have made sense.
Yeah, I think for me it was kind of like he was the obvious choice because he was a general in the war and he wanted to end the war. But yes, you're right. I think it would have been a lot more, because I don't think he even needed to be there, frankly.
No, he wasn't.
Other than for that.
Yeah, he wasn't the obvious choice. He was the safe choice.
Okay. Yes.
The obvious choice was one of the companions, and the reason being that old dude had literally spent about 10 minutes with the Doctor.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? He has no concept of how important the Doctor is to the universe. He has no concept of the amount of time the Doctor has saved the universe and blah, 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 blah.
This is true.
So he has no concept of her giving her life the impact it's going to have. The three of them do.
Yeah.
So my argument would have been, had any one of those three, although I would have said Yaz, given the journey that she's been on, and she's very much kind of put herself in that I'm like the Doctor type mode. To me, it would have made sense had Yaz gone into that chamber and said, the universe needs you more than it needs me. This is my choice. You need to go. I almost felt like that was the setup for Yaz's journey.
Yeah, it's true, because there's been, I've seen online a few bits, and it's like, people had been, saying, oh, Yaz is clearly gonna die this episode, sort of thing. And you're right, that was sort of what I'm saying. But I think for me it was just, as you say, he was a safe choice because And I kind of thought it was going to be him. I was actually surprised he let her walk out the TARDIS. I thought he was going to go, well, I'll go and do that because I've had my life. You're clearly a young woman. As far as he's concerned, she's a young woman. I've had my life. I've been fighting Cybermen all my life. This is my chance to take them all out. That's where I thought it was going to come from.
Yeah, it just felt... Because then it had no real... To us, it had a little bit of emotional, because I quite like the old dude. But it didn't have the emotional weight, not just for us as a viewer, but for the Doctor. Can you imagine if that had been Yaz?
Yeah, absolutely.
The emotional weight and baggage that's then going to put on her, would have been huge, as opposed to some old dude she's met, for 10 minutes. I'm not saying that still wouldn't sort of bother her. And clearly, kind of everything just took a toll on him when she did get back to the TARDIS, But yeah, I felt it was a safe choice rather than the right choice in terms of the way you've built up those characters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. The other thing as well is there was a moment where at the end where she had the bomb was going to hit the detonator.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment where I thought she was going to do it.
So did I have to say. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't know how she would have survived it, because there's a part of me that still isn't 100% convinced that Ruthless Doctor isn't the 14th Doctor.
I personally feel that fits better than what was implied.
Yeah. And that's what the setup is. All of this is going to be set up for when she goes, Ruthless Doctor will take over. I could be way off.
Yeah. I think we probably are off, but for me, it kind of makes more sense that as a result of this and whatever happens next series, Jodie regenerates, and then Ruthless Doctor's like, you know what, I need a break, and does the whole chameleon arch thing, and then obviously comes back, and then goes off and beats the Doctor again, sort of thing. For me, that feels more true, but I don't think they're going to do that, because I think they're clearly suggesting this is a previous.
Yeah.
So talking of previouses, should we get into it?
Yeah, so let's get into it.
So obviously, we've been trying to avoid it a little bit earlier, but obviously the big old reveal was that, in fact, the Doctor was the Timeless Child, and that she was the originator, essentially, of Time Lords, not of Gallifreyans, but of Time Lord society, due to her ability to regenerate. And she was found in a weird story where a single Gallifreyan was off exploring the universe on her own in a gigantic ship for some reason that was apparently really primitive but could go all around the universe. Whatever, writing that off for a moment. And was found, she's basically found from another dimension, and she could regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore she was then experimented on, including being killed lots of times by her adopted mother.
Pretty dark for Sunday evening family viewing.
Yeah. Especially given how okay everyone, the Doctor seemed to be with this afterwards. Yeah, and essentially what they were trying to imply was that once Time Lord Society was up and running, that a secret, even more secret than the Celestial Intervention Agency, who sent the Doctor back to destroy the Daleks at the time of creation, was around and basically using the Doctor for their own, not even nefarious purposes, for interventional purposes. And essentially was a secret agent, but she didn't know it.
She's basically Jason Bourne.
Yeah, and apparently for some reason, sometimes they just sent her back to be a random person in a random planet who could live out a normal life as a policeman and then have his brain painfully erased.
No, but that was a filter they put over the top of it. That never happened.
Oh, didn't it?
No, that was a filter, because that's what the Master was saying. That basically they put that whole thing in the Matrix as a filter over what actually happened, so that if anyone was looking through the Matrix, they would just pass that by.
Right. Okay.
Because when you actually look at some of the things that happened, it kind of correlated with the story that he was telling. So obviously in that one, the policeman gets shot and he falls off a cliff.
Oh,
which is what happens to the kid. Even the shot is very similar, and then the person comes running up, and then in that one he just kind of sits up. But obviously in the real one, she regenerates.
Yeah,
and
I completely missed that.
Yeah, the bit at the end where the bit after he kind of has been working for years.
Yeah.
And then they sort of take him into a room and then plug him up to something and basically say, thank you for your service. I'm sorry you won't remember it.
Yeah.
that tallies up with the bit where you've got the two of them sitting in the room with a woman, and she's kind of saying about the secret, the division and stuff like that. I think that's what that tallies up with.
Yeah,
and
basically,
that makes sense. After the job's done, she then just gets her mind wiped.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, this comes back to the theory of Ruth, and I mean, not even Ruth, but of there being pre-Hartnell doctors.
Yeah.
And a big old, I hadn't even picked up all that you've just said. That's so obvious now you mention it. I'm flabbergasted at my own stupidity. Oh, hang on. Google's apparently flabbergasted at my own stupidity as well. And one of the things, again, it's something that Carl was saying. He was saying about essentially you've taken this mysterious kind of Time Lord who had kind of made her own way in the universe and turned her into a pawn, because she's essentially what the implication is that all those previous doctors that we saw in, for example, the Brain in Morbius, which they did show on screen, and I quite like that, to be fair, because they flashed up the scene, the stuff that was going in the doctors. I don't know if you know this story, but basically,
I do, yeah. And I saw someone had put a little link to a clip as I went and watched it on YouTube, yeah.
So we'll not get into that then. People can go and look that up themselves. Yeah. And it's essentially, so that kind of tied all that in. But essentially, the implication was that the Doctor's just this pawn that the Time Lords use to go and sort stuff out, rather than being her own free agent.
Yeah.
And I sort of agree with that, but I think it depends on how literally you take the whole division thing, and when it started and when it ended, because there could just be a whole case of, you know what, we'll reset you, and you go off and do your own stuff, and then when you get to go too far, we just come and reset you again.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, like, you know, so there could be an element of that going on. The other thing was, you know, Carl just made a point actually just before I left home from work, and he's saying, like, you know, it's quite convenient that this child that they found just happened to have the same biology as a Time Lord, you know, 2 hearts and respiratory bypass and the psychic powers and all the rest of it. But my comeback to that is actually all that 2 heart stuff and all the rest of it, that all came out after the War Games when the Doctor was captured by the Time Lords and tried, and he regenerated off screen. So for all we know, they were like, you know what, we better turn her into a Gallifreyan this time. We've got the technology now. We can actually make her regenerate into a Gallifreyan body.
But I think this is the problem when you go putting on his writer's hat. The problem when you go back with things to retcon or, you know, dive into the history of something and change it, is that it brings out all of those questions, and then people try to find their own answers and go, well, they probably did that because of X, Y, and Z. But the simple answer is no, they didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't even considered at the time those stories were written.
No, absolutely.
Same principle as when you look at the Star Wars saga too closely, and the whole thing of, like, when he did Star Wars and you had Luke and Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and they're all in sort of desert outfits because they were on a hot deserty planet, and that's what Ben Kenobi was wearing, and then all of a sudden that becomes
the Jedi uniform.
That's the Jedi uniform. You know, that was not planned. That just came out of the story. Yeah. You know, and I think this decision for what they've done is fair enough, but which is part of the reason why a lot of the issues and criticisms I've seen people have with it have come all from plot places, as in, but then if that's the case, how could you have had River Song, or, you know, how could you have had two, you know, all the stuff you've already said? And that's what I mean. And my kind of way of, I don't even think about stuff like that, because I'm kind of like, but when it wasn't like when they first brought back Doctor Who with Christopher Eccleston, someone sat down and was like, right, this is our plan, and what we're going to do is, when we get to, see, what season are we on? 12, aren't we?
Yes.
When we get to series 12, the Doctor's going to regenerate into a woman. It's going to set off this whole arc where she's going to have to discover her roots and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to find out that actually she founded Gallifreyan Society. So we're going to lay all these breadcrumbs now. If that was the case, then you can have all those arguments, because then you're kind of going, well, hang on a minute. You knew this going way back when you started the show. Why didn't you plan all that in? But they didn't.
No. And they certainly didn't do it back in 1973.
No.
63, or...
You know, effectively, they're making this shit up on the fly.
Yeah.
Now, they can, where possible, try and cover their bases as much as they can, but obviously there's going to be holes in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And depending on how far you go down that rabbit hole, the holes can be minute or they can be huge, and it's how you decide that you want to fill it, how you decide you want to accept it. Do you roll with it, or do you let it break, the way you view the show? And I'm not saying that either way is wrong. Do you know what I mean?
I completely agree. And I think for me, it's like you look at what's on the internet, and it is literally that kind of like people who are loving it and it's filled in all this and all the rest of it, and the people who are, well, that's just nonsense.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like in a bit of middle ground, because you know what I'm like. I like to headcanon and theorize, and I've tried to create a consistent timeline for the Daleks, for God's sake, which is a nightmare. So for me, it's kind of like it's happened. This is what they're saying now. That's fine. There's nothing to say that's not going to be unsaid in the future, if that's what you want. But there is a kind of a line. It's like I've seen people say, that means that like the Peter Cushing Doctor from the films is now canon. And it's like, why does it?
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's kind of like, well, okay, that's fine if that's what you want to think. But for me, that doesn't make sense, because he had 2 adventures with the Daleks that were essentially the same as William Hartnell's adventures with the Daleks. So it doesn't make sense. And it's like people say, all the fan fiction can now be, and like the Nicholas Briggs Doctor from a Doctor Who comic strip in 1998 or whatever is now canon. It's like, is it? I don't think it is. For me, the Doctor started with William Hartnell and has gone through to Jodie Whittaker. Any lives before that weren't the Doctor. They weren't our Doctor.
Yeah.
In my head. And it's kind of, but it's a case where you draw the lines yourself, as you say. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying people who think that Peter Cushing's Doctor is all right. What I'm trying to say is, let people have their own opinions. And I'm obviously not saying this to you, because I know that's preaching to the choir. But people have got to, just let go and take what they want out of it.
Yes.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a Sunday evening now, but Saturday evening tea time show for families to sit down and enjoy. You could take as much from it or as little from it as you want, and that's what people need to do. And this whole kind of like, it's all nonsense or it's all amazing stuff, it's just, for me, it's too much. And it's about finding your own happy place and rolling
balance. And you have to bear with me. So for you, your thing is Doctor Who, and like for Dave, your thing is Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who, and sometimes we have conversations and people are sort of quoting me stuff that have happened in like old episodes as if I've never watched Doctor Who outside of the new series. And I'm like, I've been watching Doctor Who since, I don't remember Patrick Troughton that well. Do you know what I mean? But I've been watching Doctor Who since Tom Baker. I watched them all. I watched every single episode of Doctor Who. The difference being, I didn't rewatch them, and I didn't sort of, get into the lore of it all and whatever. But I used to read Doctor Who books when I was a kid and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it isn't like I don't know the lore. I just choose to. I just enjoy it for what it is and kind of move on, because I have other things which kind of I do deep dives into.
It's like you say, it's kind of like you've still got all that to go back to. If if this Doctor Who isn't for you, you've got all the other Doctor Who.
There are shows now that I put on, new shows that look good, and everyone's saying how great they are, and I've put them on, and I've literally watched 20 minutes of the first episode, and I'm like, I'm out. Or I'm like, why am I watching this? I'm not feeling it, so I'm out.
That's the thing. If you're not enjoying something, don't watch it.
Yeah, I've seen, there's a YouTube guy, I'm not going to say the name, I'm not going to give him the credit, who does Doctor Who reviews, and he done some quite negative ones, but I kind of could see where he was coming from, blah blah. And that was in the last season. And what I realised was every single episode he hated, and was just basically spending his time putting together an hour's worth of YouTube video of just him saying how much he hated the episode. Yeah. And he's like a Doctor Who fan, and I get that. But I'm like, dude, this is like 2 series now. Clearly, you're not feeling the series.
Yeah, jump off.
So jump off.
Check it out again at the beginning of next season. If you still don't enjoy it, jump off again.
Yeah, it's like Stephen Aaron, he does Scratch-Shelled Geeks. He's made it clear on several occasions, whenever we've got together, whatever, that he does not like Daniel Craig as James Bond. So he's jumped off. I'll jump back on when they get a different Bond. Sue loved Peter Capaldi, has no time for Jack. We watched the first episode with Jodie Whittaker, and she was like, "Nope, I'm out," and she hasn't come back to it.
Yeah,
she's like, I'll wait and see who they cast next. I don't see anything wrong in people who are happy coming out of the show, but I think one of the beauties of Doctor Who over a lot of other shows is that the potential is that eventually they will cast someone else, and that maybe you'll come back then, or maybe you won't.
Yeah.
But if you don't, there's a whole wealth of stuff to watch, to experience. Yeah. And I just think, why do that to yourself?
The other thing as well is with Doctor Who is it's one of those shows that is constantly giving people jumping on points. So every time you get a new showrunner, it happens. When Peter Capaldi came on, that was another jumping on point. Matt Smith's season was as well. They have these deliberate, you know what, it's been 5 years now, we might need to get a new audience. So they have a jumping on point. It's kind of like comics, they always have the resets and the events to bring people in and stuff. And it's the same with Doctor Who, because anything running for that long, you have to. You couldn't have one continuous thing for 60 years and expect people to still enjoy it. Like you said, there's so much out there. Watch what you enjoy, don't watch what you don't enjoy. You can always come back later and try it again.
Yeah.
And let people do it. Don't shame people or get angry with people because they've decided they don't like it.
Yeah. And vice versa. Because there's a lot of people who did like it and really liked it, And I've just seen that whole, again, would you know, you're not a true Who fan, all this, just tired.
Yeah. I hate gatekeeping.
But my thing is that I'll be honest, in some ways, that was the God, this is going to be a big, that was the thing I was least interested in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's fair, yeah.
That the reveal was what I was least interested in. Because I just loved the Ashad dude and the whole thing they'd built up with the Cybermen. That was the story that I wanted to see. Like, oh wow, how's this gonna like pan out? What's his backstory? What's going on? The whole kind of like this secret's gonna change everything. I was like, I'm not really that. I feel that's a sign of the times of where we are now, that you've got to do these big twists where I'm like, I'm not really that bothered with okay, so the twist is she found the Gallifrey. Well, Gallifrey is now a burning cinder. So what's what do you know what I mean? So it's not, where's the impact? Because if Gallifrey, if the Master hadn't destroyed Gallifrey and Gallifrey was still a thriving society and that came out, then we got a game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like you said, there's not really any consequences for it now.
The consequences are personal. The consequences is her trying to deal with it, and I guess the next season is her trying to like find out about that whole big section that's been redacted, what happened there. But for me as a viewer, and this is just me personally, I don't really care. I don't really care that there were previous Doctors. I'm not that bothered in what she was up to. I mean, I suppose to sort of backtrack a little bit. When I say I don't care, that sounds a bit fatalistic. I suppose what I mean by that was they'd set up far more interesting story threads.
Yeah.
Within that actual series that I was interested in, rather than the bigger plot that they were setting up.
Yeah, because I think actually you still had a story if you took out all the Timeless Child stuff and you had the Master had killed the Gallifreyans for whatever reason and was building his new immortal race of Cybermen stuff, and Ashad was coming in and he had his goals. You still had enough conflict there.
Yeah.
To stretch out a two-parter.
Yeah.
And I think this smacks of trying to be too clever with your writing and trying to almost get your headcanon in place before someone else takes over as showrunner.
Yeah.
In a way, know. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I don't mind it. I enjoyed it. As I say, I'll take from it what I take from it. It's not going to stop me watching Doctor Who. It's not made me love Doctor Who anymore.
Yeah.
I still enjoy it. I will carry on watching it. I kind of wanted to go more into some of the other points, but I don't think this is the place for it now. I think I'll have those conversations online after this is out and the episode's been on air for a bit, and I'll talk to people who I know I can have some debates with about it. So I think for me, I think we'll start to wrap up now. We've been talking for a while. I've had technical issues that hopefully actually might not show through when I come to the edit, because I think it's just at mine and my headset's end.
Yeah.
and Skype should be fine. Apologies to the listeners if that's not the case, and they have been obvious. So yeah, I think if we start to wrap up now, I think for me, I enjoyed the episode. It's kind of like The Last Jedi and Rise of the Skywalker in that I enjoyed it. I was entertained by it when I was watching it, but the more I think about it afterwards, the more threads I could just pull out that unravel a bit. But then they give me things to think about and things to headcanonize, so it's not reducing my enjoyment. I think there were issues with the plot as a whole. I think there was too much crammed in there, but I was relatively satisfied.
And for me, I've got nothing to add. I 100% agree with everything that you said in terms of, what I loved, what I didn't love. And I think there were some really good performances in this episode.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this season has done for me, or series has done for me over the last series, is I've got to see Jodie being more of the Doctor that I kind of wanted from her from the first series.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that will carry on forward as well.
Yeah.
Even though we did have the revert to David Tennantism at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Where they did the whole kind of like, oh, and this is the Christmas special cliffhanger bit. The whole what stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think given the fact it's not coming back for almost a year.
Yeah.
It could have done with perhaps just wrap it up.
Yeah.
Just
wrap
it up.
It was kind of like they almost didn't want to end it on a downer, so it was kind of like, oh, let's throw in the kind of like Rose is gone, but here's Donna sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's that sort of mentality. But yeah, I mean, again,
as I
be
said,
interested to see what happens.
Yeah, I thought there were some really good performances, and I'd certainly think I could literally watch Jodie facing off, or this Doctor facing off against the Master that they've got in this series, like all day long.
Yeah.
Some of their interactions I thought were really good, and I think as well, you got a real like sense that there was a history between the two of them.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah. And when you sort of explained the reason why he did it, and I thought that scene was really good. And then when she kind of lost it with him, I thought that was really good. Yeah,
that was a standout scene for me where he's like, it's the fact that you're in me, a bit of you is in me, sort of thing, like, and then she's like, well, just for old times, can you save my companion? And he's like, for old times, that's why I'll kill him, sort of thing, like, it's exactly for that. Those old times do mean something to me, but it isn't good. So yeah, it's some stunning performances. I think it was a good finale. I just think there are bigger things that perhaps came out of it that are going to be debated, and they were clearly put in to be debated. So, I mean, I think that's the nature of it.
And overall, a really good, solid series, I thought, overall.
Yeah, there was that. The Orphan 55 was the only real dud for me. Which is, to have just the one episode that I did not like at all in a series of Doctor Who is actually really good going.
Yeah.
Because there's usually like 3 or 4 really good episodes and the rest are mediocre to bad sort of thing. So hats off in that sense. I know I've given Christian a little bit of a hard time over the years in that he doesn't write Doctor Who how I like it, having said, but clearly this series shows that might not be the case, Mr. Anthony. So, yeah, good stuff.
Cool.
So I think we're done.
I think we're done.
So please, everyone, do let us know what you think. If we did talk about maybe having like almost like a series review show. So if we get thoughts from people in on what they liked and disliked about the series, what they liked and disliked about the finale and the revelations and all the rest of it, send them in. If we get enough, we might do a recap and a look back and a talk about theories and what panned out and what didn't, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or we might not. Who knows? It depends what timeline we're in.
Yeah. But we will be back, though.
We will be back.
We've decided. Yeah. We're going to be carrying on. We don't know. I think we'll probably do some. Although we won't exclusively do Doctor Who, but I think we talked about doing some Big Finish stuff.
Yeah, we'll get some Big Finish stuff done, and we'll probably just stuff that we're generally watching or reading or doing. We'll keep on playing even. Let's get some gaming stuff done at some point.
Yeah.
So we will be back talking about other stuff. So keep us in your ear holes.
Indeed.
You can find us at the usual places, on Twitter at Geek Syndicate or at Wedgedock. You can email us, thegeeks@geeksyndicate.co.uk. You can find us at the Geek Syndicate website. You can find us on the Facebook. So thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. We hope you've enjoyed this sort of a series look back.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed talking with Barry about it. And we will talk to you again at some point. Thank you for listening.
Take care all.
See you later.